For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dlamini. Former Miss SA Basetsana Kumalo joins me to discuss her memoir titled Bassie, My Journey of Hope. So, tell us about your fond memories of growing up in the dusty streets of Soweto.
I had such a happy childhood. I was raised in a very loving, safe and secure family environment by God-fearing parents and God-loving parents. I have so many beautiful memories of me, you know, playing with makeshift dolls, because my mother couldn't afford to buy us dolls. And so there was this 1 liter Stace of bottle that I actually used to use as my imaginary doll, and that I'd put on my back with my mother's old towel. So Stace soft. I have fond memories of Ndlalumgusha nabangani bam. We used to play hide and seek or black mampati.
Yes.
We used to play ipati. We used to play this game of tins, right? These are in Chicago.
Yeah.
So where you cascade tins in a pyramid, and then you stand a bit of a distance, and then you hit your tennis ball, and then you need to, you know, bring down those dominoes, so to speak. So I had such an amazing childhood. And you know the beauty about growing up in the township, your frame of reference was all that you had.
Yes.
The people that you knew, the teachers that were in the neighborhood, the nurses, the policemen. So you didn't know that you were disadvantaged as a child. And I think that's what the apartheid system did very well in segregating us. And then the psychology of them keeping us in our own segregated environments, you know, with the Group Areas Act, where we're not allowed to live in the suburbs. We need to be home by 6 o'clock, or our parents would get arrested if bangana pass. So juxtaposing that reality of that time with growing up in a secure environment. I mean, in the township, every child was everybody's child.
Exactly.
In that, you know, abantu basek next door bebakwazi ukuthuma ukuthi basana awunye lapha estory ongithengele isinkwa mntanami. So I grew up in an environment and in a generation where, you know, they used to say it takes a community to raise a child. So I'm the product of that community.
Many people don't know that your entrepreneurial skills started at an early age when you were selling sandwiches at school and at Orlando Stadium. Tell us about that and how your mother played a vital role in instilling sound business skills.
My mother was ahead of her time in so many ways. Formidable, resilient and resolute to be able to raise decent members of society, children who would have a work ethic, children who would understand the value of hard work. And so growing up hustling, literally, at the age of 6, selling, you know, Eastock sweets, lollipops at the schoolyard over the weekends, sandwiches with my sisters at soccer stadiums, Orlando Stadium, you know, when Chiefs and Pirates were playing, you know, it was a big deal, the derby. Even today, we know that the derby makes the whole country stand still. And selling eggs, tray of boiled eggs up and down the street, Msichana Street, Kilane. And those beginnings, those formidable years have shaped the woman that I am today, in that no business school would have taught me what I've learned in my mother's house, about being enterprising, about trying to make ends meet, and about not complaining about what you don't have, but do the best with what you've got. You know, there's a book by Robert Kiyosaki. He writes a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in that book, he advocates that parents should teach their children to work with money from an early age. And so little did our parents know that they were imprinting a DNA, a discipline. They were infusing us with this entrepreneurial, you know, drip that lives with us, in us. And that's all that we know, my siblings and I, in terms of just hard work and tenacity. and being courageous and not being afraid to fail. My dad, may he so rest in peace, Papa used to say, baby girl, hard work has never killed anybody. So I grew up with that ethos, with that value system, and with that understanding that because of where we come from as a country, as a people, as a nation, much more of a responsibility did my generation, the children of the 70s, have to be able to rewrite that narrative, that trajectory of what black people can achieve, of what a black girl child can achieve.
You almost missed the Miss SA auditions while you were at varsity, but your mom insisted that you go for it. Tell us about that and how you felt when you were crowned as Miss SA.
You know, my mom was a formidable, strong Xhosa matriarch. My mother did not suffer fools. When my mom said jump, you said, how high, ma'am? You didn't argue, you didn't back chat. And so my mother was the one who entered me in the Miss South Africa competition. I was very much involved in student politics when I went to the University of Venda. I was doing my third year degree, Bachelor of Arts in Education. And that particular year she decided, well, you're going to enter Miss South Africa. Because my sister Johanna had entered Miss South Africa in 1992. And then 94, my mom says, you know, you're of age, I think you should give this a try. You know, she organizes a local photographer, he takes a picture, and my mother fills in the forms. You know, back in those days, you had to mail the form and the picture. You got selected from what the, you know, judges picked up from your entry form. And so what subsequently happened was I was nominated as one of the semi-finals. Or semi-finalists rather, and I wasn't really keen, to be quite honest, to enter Miss South Africa. I wasn't that kind of child who grew up and looked at myself in the mirror and say, oh, I have the hallmarks or the makings or the markings of a Miss Ndondon, you know? And so when Miss South Africa happened and the judges were in Tanin doing the auditions, I got a call to say that I had made it to the semi-finals, and I needed to get there the same day. I mean, our campus is in Thohoyandou, and Tanin is a 2-hour drive. And so what subsequently happened when I got this call from my sister Johanna, because they couldn't reach me at home. That particular month, the telephone wasn't paid. And so the judges couldn't find me. So they realized, oh, no, man, this swimming costume, it looks quite familiar, because in 1992 they had made a limited edition of these Speedos, these gold Speedos, and there were only 12 of them for the 12 finalists. And then they looked at the surname, they said, hold on, this might be Johanna's sister. The costume, Makhalemele, maybe let's try and get hold of Johanna, and maybe she might know this person. And of course, they get hold of my sister. She was doing her articles at KPMG at that time. And so she called me to say, listen, girl, the people are looking for you. I said, I don't want to be with the people. I just want to finish my exams and just like get on with my life, you know. Of course, my sister phoned my mom, and then my mom literally was on the phone seconds later to say, so my mother, when she called you by the full name, you knew there was trouble. Hare, Basetsana. So we had nicknames for my parents, Father and Muter. Yes, Muter. I believe we have a problem. I said, there's no problem, ma'am. She says, I thought so. Off I went, hitchhiked to get to Tanin. And as they say, the rest is history.
And how was it? Can you just tell us a few highlights of your...
It was very daunting. I mean, here's me, a student in jeans and T-shirts and a pair of sneakers, walking into a room of women who are beautifully adorned, hair coiffed, makeup done to the T, dresses looking magnificent. And I went with a friend of mine, Maria, still my friend today. I mean, just a blessing in my life. Walking in there, I was like, we don't belong here, friend. And and I got there literally like 5'2", 5 or quarter to 5 because they were going to finish doing the pre-judging at 5. And so one kind man gave us a lift in his van, and we got there just in time. And when I arrived, the organizers, Doreen Morris, Jan Malan and Yanni Pretorius, welcomed me, and they said, you know what, we'll borrow your swimming costume because part of the pre-judging you need to wear a bathing costume. They borrowed my bathing costume. And then there was the key question session where you would sit with a panel of 7 judges and they put you right in this middle of the room. Very intimidating.
Yeah,
and then they begin to question you about just about everything under the sun. From politics to the state of the world, to your take on euthanasia, to what would you do if you became a president for a day. So a very intense, line of questioning. But I was very comfortable in that space, being a student and somebody who reads a lot. And so when I was called number 8, because they had to select 12 finalists, so my name was called 8th. I just like, this is a joke. And I entered Miss, at that time it was not Transvaal, Northern Transvaal.
Yeah.
So then I entered Miss Northern Transvaal and I won Miss Northern Transvaal, and obviously had to represent Miss Northern Transvaal at the Miss South Africa competition. And we won Miss South Africa, and subsequently I had to represent South Africa at Miss World, and South Africa came second. And so pageantry really catapulted me into national prominence, obviously. It afforded me phenomenal opportunities that I would never have had hadn't I had the privilege to wear the crown. But I think what was also important is what I was going to do and how I was going to use that crown to really change my life, because it's only for 12 months. After 12 months, you have to keep it moving. There's a new queen. And so I understood the winning was a very poignant and important turning point in my life. And I didn't want to squander the opportunity. I wanted to make the best of it. And I'd like to believe that I did.
You described meeting Madiba as an out-of-body experience. How would you describe the relationship you had with Tata?
Tata was a force. Tata was a presence. When you were with Madiba, you knew you were in the presence of greatness. You knew that you are the blessed one, and you're privileged to sit at a table, to glean from such wise counsel. Tata was humility personified. He espoused true servant leadership. And for him to intentionally embrace me as one of his, and mentor me and raise me, I count it all joy, and I also still, even now, can't believe how fortunate I was. That for so many years, our first black president, the first president in my mind, the first leader of the world, would see it fit to take in this Makhalimele daughter and impart a lot of wisdom. I mean, you never were in Madiba's space and then you leave the same. You always left a better person, inspired, believing that you too can because of what he's been through. And that I was a stickler for time. That I didn't like Amanda Ballet. Oh, he was not about that. And I remember distinctly one of the visits that we had in Houghton. My sister and I, invited to go and have lunch in Tata. And so the motorcade comes rushing. This was 1 o'clock. The motorcade comes rushing in. And you think, I'm sure something very, very, very important is happening. Maybe a dignitary has come from some country, so this lunch is probably not going to happen, but it's fine, you know. So Dada comes into the house like, oh Dada, really you shouldn't worry, because he said, when about that to busy door? Now Dada, oh, I've been worried because we're not busy. I said, no darling, no darling. I have an appointment to have lunch with you at 1 o'clock.
Wow.
And so I'm here at 1 o'clock. Being late is a sign of disrespect. You know, so Utata would teach you those lessons intermittently. And one of the things that he also taught me was that you should finish what you start in life. Don't quit. Finish what you start. And so when I won Miss South Africa, he offered me a scholarship to go to Georgetown University because he knew my love for politics. And Georgetown in DC is one of the best political schools. Clinton studied there. And I couldn't take the scholarship. It was in 1994-95 because I handed over my crown in 95. And I said to Dada, I can't leave the country and be away for 5-6 years if I do my postgrad. And then I come back to this country that has gone through so many changes.
You wanted to be here.
And I've missed it. I wanted to be on the ground and be part of the pulse of a new changing nation. And then I said, one thing I'll promise you though, I'll go back to school one day and I'll finish my degree. And I'll subsequently, of course, finish what I've started. And I've had the privilege to, study at Yale, at Harvard now. And it's just those teachings that you finish what you start. And that's also what I'm trying to inculcate in my children, that they can't be quitters. They can't give up. Life is tough. Life has its own challenges, but many a times people just easily throw in the towel. So there's so many fond memories I have of Dada. Even when I won with Bassie, I'm just thinking about this other story. So Mom Grassa tells the story so beautifully herself. When I won, so she comes home and there's these beautiful designer outfits that have been commissioned from different designers. And so Mom comes home and says to Dada, she used to call him, Papa, these don't look like my size. So Dada, Mom, no, darling, I bought these clothes for Basetsana because she is an ambassador of our country now. And her parents can't afford these things. She needs to look presentable. So we have responsibility to make sure that when she's on the world stage, she looks her best. So the stories are many.
That was Basetsana Kumalo speaking to Crema Media's Polity about her memoir titled Bassie, My Journey of Hope.